All right, take a swig. In 5, 4, 3.
Dr. Kikkert, your previous studies have indicated that the origin of some of the bacteria that we find in these devices comes from a basic human background. I guess what I'm trying to say in a not so discreet way is that people have a tendency to not be as polite or as tidy as they should be when it comes to such things as blowing their nose or using the bathroom. And ultimately, some of those bacteria are deposited on these devices. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Proper hygiene is essential. So your basic first defense against staying germ-free. And once that hygiene falls away, basically any microorganisms that are on your body or in your body, you definitely have the potential to transfer them to other devices, anything you're in contact with. And actually, you wouldn't expect microbes on something that's in a household environment to be anywhere but from a human source, or perhaps a pet source or what have you. But there are going to be some things maybe floating in the air, but by and large, the primary source of these microorganisms is going to be from humans.
But even the best effort to maintain a degree of hygiene and cleanliness in the home, if they wiped this device with a Lysol or some other antibacterial cleaner on a regular basis, while that would help protect the surface, that won't inhibit the growth of the bacteria within those nooks and crannies. Is that correct?
That will not inhibit the growth of the bacteria in those surfaces. And another point that's important to remember, you could wash your hands forever. You will not sterilize your hands. There will always be microorganisms on your hands, on your skin, that can be transmitted to other objects. And so when we talk about hygiene, we talk about good hygiene, you're reducing the amount of microbes that could be transmitted, but you're not eliminating them completely by any stretch. So we have that issue first of all, and then secondly, when you have these crevices and these surfaces, these contours, they're going to be very difficult, if not impossible, to completely clean.
So then it is agreed that a sleeve of this type with the polyethylene antimicrobial covering is a practical remedy, a simple solution to a very old and consistent problem.
Absolutely. We should say, first of all, that we are surrounded by microbes all the time, and a healthy immune system is really our main barrier against that. And so we do walk through life with this constant war that goes on between our immune system and the outside world. If our immune system is compromised, then suddenly things that perhaps wouldn't harm a healthy person could be a dangerous threat to us. And that's when you start looking at bacteria in hospitals, or you have compromised patients, or you have high use of a public facility with a lot of potentially different microbes present. That's where, in my opinion, the utility of such a device really comes into play. It really enhances the utility when you're looking at uncontrolled environments where you are in contact with devices that a random sampling of other people are also using as well.
I see. Well, but aren't we also learning that because of the overuse of antibiotics, that we're now starting to see strains of bacteria that are resistant to the effects that an
Absolutely. The general public will tend to think of antibiotic resistance as something tied with a pathogen. But if you were to take these bacteria that we identified here and grew them up and tested them for antibiotic resistance, many of these would be antibiotic resistant, although they might not be even pathogenic, just to show you how common it is for microbes to be antibiotic resistant. Microbes can share DNA, and so when you have environments where you have microbes living together in your intestinal tract, on your skin, in all kinds of places, there's gene transfer taking place. And so the use of antibiotics promotes the increased frequency of antibiotic resistance genes. And like I said, antibiotic resistance is not directly linked to pathogenicity. It is very common for microbes nowadays to be antibiotic resistant, even if they're harmless.
Well, let's get back to a second, if we could, to some of these cultures that you've been able to discover. Just as a visual appearance, I mean, my gosh, they certainly look awfully grotesque. But what actually is growing in there, and how could that affect us on a regular basis?
Well, if you look at these plates, you can see differences in the colony morphology, the shapes and the colors of these colonies. In this one, we can see some fungi growing here. There are some bacteria, there are some molds growing here. These are all things that we do have on our skin, in our mouth, and places. And really what you're looking at in terms of the health to the average individual, we're looking at what is the organism, what is the health of the individual. One of the things that we talk about with our students is it's not the organism itself that causes disease, it's the genes of that organism. So we're looking at basically strains of Staphylococcus or strains of E. coli, which make that bacteria pathogenic. And so by looking at, we expect to see bacteria in these environments. However, we hope that we're not cultivating virulent strains. You can look at some of these and you can see one thing that we call a virulence factor is bacteria's ability to make capsules around itself. And bacteria that are encapsulated are often much more difficult for our white blood cells to gobble up. And you can see by just some of the shimmering surfaces of some of these microbes that they probably are producing very nice capsules. And that would certainly be, like I said, a virulence factor, something that would be more difficult for our body to clean up than bacteria that lack that capsule.
Well, how long did it take those cultures to grow?
These cultures will grow overnight. Generally, when you grow bacteria in an incubator at the temperature of the human body, in one day, most of the bacteria that you would find in a particular environment usually will have grown up.
Now, I know this sounds a bit odd, but I'm somewhat less repulsed by having my own bacteria represented to me than sharing somebody else's bacteria.
Yeah, that's a great point. You know, the bacteria belongs to no one, yet we feel like if the bacteria is living on our skin and it hasn't hurt us yet, then it's probably okay. But that's certainly an interesting point. The bacteria that was on your skin, originally it was on someone else's skin or lived somewhere else. So it's really not yours anyway.
The shock, just when I was starting to feel ownership.
Good one.
You know,
Won't name it.
We need a rim shot in there, you know. Bling.
well, Dr. Kikkert, what other devices should I consider utilizing the availability of a protective sleeve to help make them germ resistant?
Well, anything that you're in contact with your skin, that other people are in contact with, could be a candidate for this kind of device. Like I said at the very beginning, your immune system will keep you healthy to a certain extent, and that's our primary defense. And so without that, we are incredibly vulnerable, and as we get older, our immune system weakens. And so I don't want to imply that you know, walking down the street, you know, we are at threat from being killed by bacteria. However, if our immune system is compromised, what part of our immune system, we look at our skin, we have oils, we have surfaces that have high salt content. They tend to not favor the growth of all kinds of microorganisms. But should that surface be compromised, then suddenly that's a great opportunity for opportunistic bacteria to colonize. And so if we have a compromised immune system, even temporarily, such a device like this could be extremely valuable.
Thank you.